everyone, this is Carol Bailey White, President of Duval Audubon Society, your local chapter of the National Audubon Society, serving residents of Clay, Duval, and Nassau counties in Northeast Florida. During the summer months, our chapter takes a break from our regular schedule of field trips and other activities. But that doesn't mean you can't get in some good birding over the summer months. In this video, I'll talk about some of the birds you might be able to find in different types of habitats, and I'll also share some of our favorite summer birding spots. To start us off, here are some general summer birding tips. My recommendation, get an early start. It's cooler then and you'll probably see more birds. Plus, you have a better chance of good weather earlier in the day. You'll want to make sure you have all the stuff you might need for an optimum summer birding experience. Binoculars for sure, a scope if you have one, hat, sunscreen, bug spray, etc. Don't forget to bring plenty of water. It's so easy to get dangerously dehydrated in our summer heat. Lastly, always pay attention to what's around you. I know it's hard when you spot that great bird, but if you look down afterwards and realize you're standing on a fire ant mound, life can get very uncomfortable very quickly. So just try to be aware of your surroundings. First, I want to talk about birding at the beach. One of our very favorite beach birding spots is Huguenot Memorial Park, off Heckscher Drive on the north side of the St. Johns River. It's been designated as a critical wildlife area for nesting royal terns and laughing gulls, with estimates of more than 5,000 individuals reported there each summer. The sound of that many shorebirds, with adults calling and chicks begging, is amazing. The nesting area for these species, as well as other shorebirds, is roped off during the summer breeding season to prevent cars from driving into the area and possibly killing the chicks. If you decide to go, be aware there is an entry fee per vehicle, so check the city's website for the current rates. Driving on the beach is allowed, but make sure you check the tides before you go, as many vehicles have been stranded by high tides. Also, whether you're driving, biking, or on foot, please be extremely careful not to disturb any of the birds on the beach, and don't let kids or pets go into the nesting area in the dunes. If you're close enough that the birds react to your presence, you are too close. This could literally mean death for these vulnerable birds. While you're birding at the beach, you might also see American oystercatchers, black skimmers, brown pelicans, Wilson's plovers, sandwich terns, and least terns, to name just a few. You might even be lucky enough to spot an adorable common tern, whose short red legs and diminutive size really make the royal terns look like giants. In addition to Huguenot Memorial Park, other great beach birding spots in our area include Fort Clinch State Park in Fernandina Beach, Big Tablet Island State Park, Little Tablet Island State Park, Hanna Park in the Mayport area, and Anastasia State Park in St. Augustine. These are just a few of the beach birding spots we love. Another favorite birding spot, not just during the summer months but all year round, is a wonderful place known to local birders as Spoonbill Pond. This wetlands pond is directly across from the Sawpit Creek boat ramp on Heckscher Drive at the northern end of Big Tablet Island. There's plenty of parking at the boat ramp, but there is a fee and it's an unattended entry, so you'll need exact cash. It's been $2 in the past, but just to be sure, check the city's website before you go so you know how much cash to bring. Spoonbill Pond is separated from the Atlantic by a narrow sandbar and a thin sliver of beach. You can just see the ocean in the top right corner of the background photo. The pond attracts an incredible variety of species, including most of the ones I've already mentioned, but during the summer months you might also see roseate spoonbills, black-necked stilts, greater yellowlegs, wood storks, American white pelicans, reddish egrets, and common wading birds like great egrets, snowy egrets, and great blue herons, among many others. Spoonbill Pond is designated as a birding hotspot on eBird.org, meaning that a wide variety of bird species have been reported there. It's easy to see what other species have been reported at this location, and in fact all of the spots I'll be talking about in this video. Just visit eBird.org, click Explore, and then click Explore Hotspots. That'll bring you to a map of all the places that eBird has designated as birding hotspots around the world. You can enter in the name of the hotspot, or you can enter in a more general area, like a county or city name, into the search box to see all the hotspots in a particular geographic location. You can get lost in all the fascinating information that eBird has to offer. I know I have. Another great summer birding habitat is marshlands, and one of our favorites is Round Marsh at the Theodore Roosevelt area, which is part of the Timucuan Ecological and Historic Preserve. Tidal marshes like Round Marsh are full of life, and abundant worms, fiddler crabs, snails, clams, and oysters provide sustenance for many different species of birds, mammals, and reptiles. Low tide is the best time to see elusive species like the clapper rail, which are otherwise very well concealed in the tall marsh grasses. I can count on one hand the number of times I've actually seen a clapper rail, but I've heard them many times. Marshes are perfect habitat for all your standard wading birds like the ones I've already mentioned, plus more beauties like tricolored herons, little blue herons, and white ibises, all of which can commonly be seen during the summer months. While you're there, also look up for raptors like bald eagles, red-shouldered hawks, and ospreys, which may be flying over the marsh in search of prey. I'm going to play the calls of each of them since many times you will hear them before you see them. Here's the bald eagle. Next, the red-shouldered hawk. And last, the osprey. I'm sure you've heard all of these before, and now you know which one is which. Other birds you might see in marshy habitats include green herons, double-crested cormorants, anhingas, and red-winged blackbirds. Keep in mind that you might see these species in other habitats as well. They're just a bit more likely in marshy wetlands areas. For more great marsh habitat bird spotting in Northeast Florida, we really like Castaway Island Preserve and Cradle Creek Preserve on the Intercoastal Waterway in Jacksonville, Heritage River Road Wetlands, the Alamocani Boat Ramp Park, Cedar Point Preserve, Pumpkin Hill Preserve State Park, and Betts Tiger Point Preserve on the north side of the St. Johns, and Egan's Creek Greenway and Fernandina Beach, just to name a few. Basically, anywhere you can access the Intercoastal Waterway should provide fantastic marsh habitat for some great summer birding. Another wonderful spot for marsh birds is Hanna Park in Atlantic Beach, which I've already mentioned. In fact, Hanna Park is a triple threat. It offers spectacular beach birding and plenty of marshy wetland habitat for a variety of bird species, not to mention lots of wooded areas, which I'll talk about more in a bit. This fabulous video of a least bittern was captured by local birding expert Thomas Rotsulu during a summertime birding expedition at Hanna Park. Thomas says he hears least bitterns calling in the marshy areas around the lake at Hanna Park every summer, but seldom actually sees them because they are so secretive. Capturing this video was definitely a lucky break. The last type of habitat I want to talk about is woodlands. And there are lots of wonderful wooded areas in northeast Florida that are super for summertime birding. All three of the species pictured can be found in our area during the summer months, but they can be a bit more challenging to see due to the heavier foliage. I recommend becoming familiar with their calls so you can recognize who's singing and have a better chance of actually seeing the bird. Here's the red-eyed vireo singing. Red-eyed vireos are energetic singers. Some males of this species have been known to produce this brief but incessant song more than 20,000 times in a single day. Red-eyed vireos do indeed have a ruby red eye, but it can be difficult to see the eye color in a shady wooded environment, so don't rely on that for ID purposes. Look for a dark cap, heavy straight bill, olive-colored upper parts with lighter buffy coloring underneath, and a distinctive eye stripe. Another exciting bird to see in wooded areas around northeast Florida during the summer months is the yellow-billed cuckoo. The downward curving yellow bill, white underside, and charcoal gray upper parts are wonderful field marks for this species. But in my opinion, their most striking feature is their long black tail decorated with large white spots underneath. Such a cool looking bird. Like other woodland birds, they can be harder to spot during the summertime. But if you hear one calling, there's a good chance you can find it sitting on a branch looking for juicy caterpillars to eat. The prothonotary warbler is another one that's in our area during the summertime. I think this is one of the loveliest warblers around, with its brilliant yellow coloring and dark wings. They're more frequently found near swampy areas with cypress trees, but you can certainly see them in other areas as well. Listen for their distinctive song. And watch for a flash of yellow as they fly through the tree canopy. In other kinds of woodland habitats, you might find different species during the summertime. For example, the grassy pine woodlands at Julington Urban Preserve in Jacksonville are a well-known summer breeding area for Bachman sparrows, which can sometimes be seen perched atop tall grass stems, singing their hearts out. This type of habitat is also good for summer tanagers, which might at first be dismissed as male northern cardinals because of their all-red plumage. But if you see a red bird, look again. You might have a summer tanager. Always remember, bird every bird. Have a listen to their lovely song. Another fairly common species in this type of habitat is the brown-headed nuthatch. They're usually found in the tops of pine trees, busily foraging or squabbling with their family members. Their call is adorable. I've heard it compared to the sound of a squeaky toy. If you hear this, look for movement in the upper story of any pine trees that are nearby, and be aware, they are tiny, so you'll definitely need your binoculars for this little cutie. Bayard Conservation Area in Green Cove Springs is another one of our favorite birding spots, with similar pine flatwoods and sandhill habitat as Julington Urban Preserve. and many miles of trails to explore. Another fantastic spot for summer birding, and for the rest of the year as well, is Ready Point Preserve off of University Boulevard North in Jacksonville. Ready is another spot that offers multiple habitats for a wide variety of species. It's located right on the St. Johns River, so you can see birds like wood storks, gulls, terns, ospreys, and bald eagles, and it also has extensive wooded areas where you might see the summer birds I've already mentioned, like red-eyed vireos and yellow-billed cuckoos. Plus it has several ponds where you might see black-crowned night herons, yellow-crowned night herons, or possibly even a green heron. But you may not even need to go out of your neighborhood to see some great summer birds. If there are any wooded areas in your neighborhood, you can find a wide variety of bird species during the summer months. On a recent walk in my suburban neighborhood, I saw 23 different species, including all of the ones pictured, as well as many of our year-round species like eastern bluebirds, Carolina chickadees, tufted titmice, Carolina wrens, white-eyed vireos, blue jays, and, of course, northern cardinals. The northern parula is one of just a few warblers that are in our area in the summertime. They have a very distinctive song that's been described as a rising buzzy trill with a final sharp note, which is a pretty accurate description. Have a listen. Northern parulas are distinctive looking as well, with a short notched tail, two white wing bars, blue-gray upperparts with an olive patch mid-back, white underparts with a yellow chest and throat, and a broken white eye ring. Unique among warblers, the yellow on its throat extends all the way to the tip of the bill. Gray-crested flycatchers are also fairly common in our area during the summer months. Their dark brown crest, gray neck and chest, brown wings with white wing bars, long rusty red tail feathers, and lemon yellow belly make this species very distinctive, and their call is unmistakable. You might also be lucky enough to see a gorgeous little ruby-throated hummingbird in our area at this time of year. These little jewels are the only species of hummingbird commonly seen in Northeast Florida, and they can be found sipping nectar from native wildflowers like trumpet honeysuckle, coral bean, or butterfly milkweed. Many folks also put out nectar feeders to attract hummingbirds to their yard. If you have a hummingbird feeder, please make sure to keep it scrupulously clean, especially during the summer months, and do not use red dye in the feeder. This could possibly cause injury, lowered reproductive success, and birth defects in hummingbirds. I couldn't talk about summertime birding without mentioning woodpeckers. The three species of woodpeckers most often spotted in our area during the summer months are actually here all year round, so you can definitely enjoy seeing them at any time of the year, but they seem especially noticeable to me in the summertime. Pileated woodpeckers are the largest woodpecker species in North America, and they're certainly a pleasure to see. With their red crest, black and white facial stripes, mostly black plumage, and white underwings, they're one of the easiest woodpecker species to recognize. They tend to stay lower in the tree canopy as well, so if they're around, they're usually not too hard to find. Their call is distinctive and kind of sounds like someone laughing very loudly. Red-bellied woodpeckers are extremely common in our area. Their name is a bit misleading, as it's unusual to actually be able to see the faint red coloring on the belly. But when it was originally named, it had to be distinguished from the red-headed woodpecker, whose head is entirely and completely red. Red-headed woodpeckers are much less common in our area, unfortunately, so you're less likely to see one of those unless you go to a spot where they are known to hang out. You can check eBird for good spots for red-headed woodpeckers. Anyway, back to red-bellied woodpeckers. Like most birds, it's extremely helpful to be able to recognize their call so you know what you're looking for. Here's the call of the red-bellied woodpecker. Our smallest woodpecker species is the downy woodpecker, and the photo shows the male of the species, distinguished by the red spot on the back of the head. Females look very similar, but lack the red spot. Their whinnying call is something I hear all the time in my neighborhood. Summertime is baby time for many bird species in our area. If you hear screechy calls that just go on and on, you might just be hearing fledgling birds following one of their parents around, demanding to be fed. Listen to this baby eastern bluebird incessantly begging for something to eat from the singing adult. Eastern bluebirds breed in our area in the spring and summertime, as well as species like eastern kingbirds, blue jays, white-eyed vireos, tufted titmice, Carolina chickadees, Carolina wrens, blue-gray gnatcatchers, and of course, northern cardinals. All of these species nest and bring up their young in our area, and summertime is the time to see them. And finally, three spectacular species that are only in our area during the spring and summer months. All three species breed right here in Northeast Florida, although you will most likely see them in flight rather than perched or on nests, unless you're very lucky. Swallowtail kites are large raptors that primarily nest in tall pine or cypress trees, and nests have been discovered in suburban areas as well as more remote areas, so you certainly might see them in your neighborhood. According to the Breeding Bird Atlas page on the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission's website, nests are made of small sticks and large amounts of moss and lichens, and are located near the top of one of the tallest available trees. The typical clutch consists of 2 white eggs marked with dark reddish brown. Incubation lasts about 28 days, and the young fledge between 5 and 6 weeks of age. I think everyone can agree that these birds are among the most stunningly beautiful that can be found in our area. They usually arrive in late February or March, and once the fledglings are old enough, they all start gathering in huge pre-migration roosts in more remote areas before beginning their migration to their South American wintering grounds in late August. Next, the Mississippi kite, which seems to be more numerous in our area now than they were in the past. Certainly, eBird reports many more sightings of Mississippi kites in Northeast Florida in the last 10 years than in the previous decade. In the air, their flying style is reminiscent of swallowtail kites, but they're quite a bit smaller at around 14 inches in length. Their wings are somewhat broader, and they have a very dark wedge-shaped or fan-shaped tail. For me, it's such a thrill to see them soaring in the sky, using their tails as a rudder as they maneuver to catch insects to eat. We usually start seeing them in April, and most of them are gone by mid-September, on their way back to their wintering grounds in South America. Last is the chimney swift. Chimney swift nesting sites were once limited to natural cavities like hollow trees, but this species has adapted so well to human civilization that they now almost exclusively nest in chimneys and other human-made structures. The Breeding Bird Atlas is a fantastic site for information about the birds that nest in Florida. Just go to myfwc.com and search for Breeding Bird Atlas. It says that chimney swifts build half-cup nests that are stuck to the side of interior surfaces of the nesting cavity with saliva. You can see them flying around in many areas in Northeast Florida, catching insects and dipping down for a brief drink in a pond or lake. They've been described as flying cigars, so look for the cigar-shaped body, sharply pointed wings that curve backward, an overall dark color with a paler throat. Although this photo isn't to scale, chimney swifts at about 5 inches long are much smaller than the two raptor species pictured. This species also winters in South America, arriving in our area in late March and typically leaving by mid-October. I'd just like to close by saying that we are so lucky here in Northeast Florida because the birding is great all year round, even in the summertime. There are many more bird species in our area than I could possibly include in the video, so even if you're just watching them in your own backyard, you can see lots of different kinds of birds if you spend a little time and open your eyes and ears to the delights of nature. Thanks for watching and happy birding!